So what we have here is the DaTruthDT's top 15 LR tier list. And I wanted to talk about it because it's not stirring up controversy or anything, but it's stirring up quite a bit of discussion like it always does. You know, if you belong to the Dokkan community, if you belong to the Dragon Ball community, like Legends or anything, a lot of people go to DaTruth for his opinions on things, right? He plays more of the game than anyone else. He grinds the most. He's just constantly on it. So this is the person who, by and large, if you're going to Dokkan, you end up being like, yeah, this is probably the opinion I side with to some degree. And while I don't see eye to eye with Truth on a lot of things, I do believe that, like, objectively, he just has a very robust knowledge of the game. He just has a lot of experience in the game. And so when it kicked up this much backlash, or I don't want to say backlash because it sounds too negative, just this conversation, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So I started looking at the list, and obviously we have Vegeta at the top, no duh. Then we have the fours, then we have Gogeta, then we have the gods, then we have Super Saiyan 4 Goku. And until this point, you're thinking, yeah, that seems about right. Like, would this not be everyone's top 5 LRs right now? Maybe, like, if you were someone and you're the biggest Gogeta fan in the world, and you're like, Gogeta's actually 2 over Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, which I don't know why you'd be a Super Saiyan Gogeta fan, but not a Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta fan, but I digress. But that's all to say, those are the top 5, I think, firmly. I would say those are the top 5 LRs firmly. Then we go into Vegeta, Beast, and Tech Broly. And that is where we have the pushback. Because below them we have Kefla, or not Kefla, sorry, Caulifla and Kale, Gotenks, Go Frieza, Pikkon, Gohan, Goku, and then Vegeta, right? And I guess we can now move over to like why this is kicking up so much conversation. Bear with me. So now we have Ani saying, I think it's time we had a conversation about Tech Broly. And that is a big mic drop for me. Like, I think that most people, when they look at a top tier list or top list of LRs, we're like, Broly's somewhere because we need slot ones, right? And Broly is one of the definitive slot ones still. He's much, much, much worse than he was. But if you need 2 turns to get your Tech Vegeta out, to get your AGL Goku out, to get your, blah, blah, blah out, Broly's there. Minato responds, Tech Broly and Int Broly suffer the same issue in this meta, yet Int Broly is nowhere to be seen. Realistically, how would Int Namek Goku be in a worse spot than Tech Broly in this meta? Feels like this was decided before final RZ stages and FOB dropped. And another great point. Let me pause here and actually go back to and pull that up. So here we have the Super Saiyan Goku in question, who obviously got his easy A, and for a time was considered a little shaky. Obviously, this character didn't really have content to fit into, and though he was fine, he was a bit of a fish once his 6 turns were out. But if we're going to go with Minato's logic, or what I assume is Minato's logic, because I do not know Minato, and so I do not have access to them, you could say that in that same way, Broly is a character doing very similar things, which is getting weaker throughout the fight and then being unable to stick in that slot 1 spot. But perhaps you would also say that he would complete his job of getting Goku into Vegeta, maybe Vegeta into AGL Goku, and then both of them into their fusing states. So, fair enough. One of the reasons I would like to just quickly touch on that it's not really the same as Int Broly, and this one's obvious. Maybe he's thinking of power in a vacuum versus power in reality, which is Int Broly has huge character restrictions now, right? So, when all allies attacking the same turn are uncontrollable power category characters. That said, can be activated when there's a Goku's family enemy, which means that he can activate it against Blue Goku. So that is fair. But against battle-hardened formidable foes, you would need to be running uncontrollable power. And while uncontrollable power isn't a dead team by any imagination, like, Broly would buff Caulifla and Kale, would buff AGL Goku. You could run the Tech Broly. The issue with this team is it is flaccid. It is a flaccid team. What would happen essentially is that you would do no fucking damage, and then your fight would end once you're done using Domain and, you know, trying to get this character through the fight, and it's too much. The weight of it is too much. Any responses here? So Broly's only good in battle hard for middle foes in slot 1, while doing 0 damage and still able to take damage. He's practically worthless in RZ and unrunnable in Festival. Namegoku is good in 2 to 3 modes. Fair. Hey, hands up. That's pretty fair. It's pretty fair. Broly's fine in red zone. I don't know where you got that information from. Broly, when the super's outside slot 1, he has to tank it, and then someone says, why would you put Broly outside of slot 1? And I mean, because he can't live slot 1 supers. I mean, someone didn't read all of it. So you cannot keep this Broly in slot 1. You can't. Because what that person is essentially saying is like, oh, you know, you just use this. And it's like, okay. What happens now? So he has 76 for 3 turns. All right, 76 for 3 turns. You are not killing them in these 3 turns. You are not. Because this character does not do damage anymore. And while I do hate to be this, you guys know I hate to be this guy. But why doesn't he do damage anymore? It's because every boss in the game's got 1 billion HP. It's because every boss in the game's got 1 billion HP. So, you know, I hate to be that guy, but yeah. So that's kind of the big issue. I think the big sticking point people are having. You can at least kind of sneak Tech Broly on the 10th years teams. You can say that to literally everyone. Yeah. That's not a question at all. I stopped reading when you mentioned Int Broly, though. This was about comparing 2 Brolys. Is that they're not good in long form content? Yeah, fair enough. And too much of a domain merchant. Yeah, I think Minato isn't fully correct, but they are similar characters. That's undeniably true. They're not good in long content. Their best periods were in what I would consider like mid-level content, which is just like wrapping up around turn 6, 7 maybe, rather than turn 12, 13. And anything in Broly shits on tech, he actually carries the unpowered team to just being able to beat all the red zones. That's not enough. No. I don't think it's like a hammer. I don't think it's like crazy or anything, but like just because you can beat a red zone, like if you just pummel away at a red zone, you're pummeling, eventually you will get the RNG to align in your favor, right? Like you will. It's inevitable. It is inevitable, right? You will get enough of the pieces together to beat these stages, but does that mean that this is like an exceptional thing, especially when you're talking about the top 15 characters in the game? No. That's not realistic. It's like saying that like Vegeta can scrape together enough RNG to get like Universal Survival Saga over the hill. And it's like, should Vegeta move up? You want him to move up? No, you probably don't. He's not doing enough. And finally, we have a top 15 ordered here as well. Can I pop this out a little bit? I guess keep it. And Platty said essentially the same top. Well, gods aren't better than using Gogeta, but that's fine. And then again, here we have Beast here, Vegeta, Go Frieza, etc. Right? Tech Broly down here. And we have people immediately going, Go Frieza too low. Yeah, we need to have serious conversation about Beast Broly and especially Go Frieza. The fuck did Broly do to you? Bad list because you're inconsistent. Some units, despite being very similar to others and having gaps, discredits this and just shows why you won't play the game. So this is like, I wouldn't go that far, but like, it is another case of like, what is your barometer for power? What is your standard? You know, what is your standard for power, right? Let me pull up the tables, right? So when you have like a tier list up on Dokkan and you're trying to measure 2 characters, right? And say you're trying to measure, you know, this Goku, and then who's like another character I can pull up that's kind of like mediocre but has like a similar kit. You know who I'm looking for? You know what I want to look for? I want to look for Kefla. Scanning. Actually, let's look at this character. So, say you're trying to measure these characters, dodge characters that really don't have like events to play in right now, and you're like, well, this Goku is just so good. I love him so much. But this Goku Gohan unit, oh, it's just so bad. Like, what? I can't even. How do you even use this unit? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? They're not doing different things, really. They're both characters who want to do damage, characters that take a while to get going because you want this character to revive, so you need to wait for his revive turn. Like, they're characters with like really obviously weaknesses, and they're designed around attacking a bunch and dodging. So we're playing in sort of the mud here, where we want to look at like these characters as like uniquely worse, but it's like, well, what is this doing better? You know, you can't get to Go Frieza without like these two guys, you know what I mean, or this guy. You know, you can't get to Go Frieza without like this guy or this guy. You know, like there's a unique value to Broly that is it feels almost like overstated in some aspects and underrated in aspects. Same with Beast, where outside of Vegito essentially needs to make up the damage that Broly and Beast can't do. They do no damage. They contribute nothing. So Vegito needs to do the damage that they otherwise lack completely, but he can. And that becomes a different conversation when you're not using that character, because this character can't do that. You know, if we're talking about uncontrollable power, Kefla can't make up the damage that Vegito does. Super Saiyan 4 Goku can't make up the damage that Vegito does. So it intrinsically makes the Brolys different beasts. It makes them a huge negative when you can't make up the damage by going into Vegito and ending the fight. And that is sort of why the heliocentric nature of like a Vegito right now is making Dokkan look a little weird. It's why every time you get a new character, you have to talk about Vegito. It's why every single time we get a new character, we have to talk about Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Because with them in mind, what's the weakness of Beast? With them in mind, what's really the weakness of Broly? They get them to their point where they come out, and then they float, and then they're just protected by a taunt, Ghost Usher, you know, super prediction, or like future sight or whatever it is. I don't know. It's interesting, right? It goes back to two of my favorite units that released this year in terms of like in terms of people talking about characters, right? Where is this the character for that? No, that's not his. I don't remember where it is. Whatever. It goes back to like this character where people are like, oh my god, he's so good, and you know, he's amazing, and you run him on Giant Ape Power, which isn't a fucking team at all. Here it is. And then you have this character, and it's like, oh my god, they're the same. They're going up here together. And it's like, are they the fucking same? This character has a way worse downside, right? Unlike these two characters who have the same weakness, Vegeta doesn't have the weakness of this character. He's going up here. You know what I mean? It's those little things that sort of add up. And it's where I think we lost the conversation a little bit. But what do you think of this, I guess, if you made it this far? Like, how do you feel about Truth's tier list this time around? It feels divisive, and I myself, I think I'm sort of on the same page. I'm closer to the same page as a lot of people, where I don't know if I would say that Broly and Beast need to just be clearing this entire seg of characters, this like entire wall, because their output is really, really low unless you're running this guy. But if we are ready to admit that the game revolves around specifically Vegito, then sure. All right. With all that being said, like if you like the video, subscribe to the club, we all gonna make it, and I have been loaned Peace.